Sri Lanka's government has been fighting the Tamil Tiger rebels for more than 2 decades, and the government is said to be deeply concerned for the civilians caught up in the conflict. Well, joining us now with his perspective, the Sri Lankan ambassador to the United Nations, H.M.G.S. Palihakkara. Mr. Palihakkara, thank you for joining CNN today. Now, the military is preparing for its final assault against the Tamil Tigers who refuse to surrender. Now, according to the UNHCR, 50,000 civilians are caught up in this war zone. You have been at the United Nations today discussing the crisis in your country. Can a bloodbath be avoided?
Certainly, I think the first step in that significant step in that direction was taken last 2 days, where the Tamil civilians in huge numbers, as your own correspondent reported, have used a safe passage created by the security forces to walk away from the LTT's hostage situation, and that the government forces are now trying successfully to create more safe passages so that the remaining civilians can terminate this hostage situation and come to safer areas.
So according to the military, 50,000 people have been allowed safe passage. They're the ones who have escaped in the last 2 days. But according to UNHCR, 50,000 remain in that war zone. If a final assault begins, what will happen to those civilians?
Certainly, like the 60,000 who were held hostage by the LTTE, the remaining civilians will also make use of the safe passages that the security forces are now attempting to create and come to safer areas. That's the intention of the government. Up to now, government has declared 2 poses, but the LTT prevented them from coming. I think your correspondent showed the drone pictures very clearly. They are firing into the beach and preventing civilians from coming. So the government has decided to use special forces and create safe passages, and the first lot, 62,000 of them came the last 2 days.
So what happens to those people who can't get out, who the Tamil Tigers refuse to release?
The international community has been very clear on that. The co-chairs, the EU, the US, Japan and Norway, who issued a statement on 3rd February, said that LTT has lost its military capacity, lost territory, and now it's losing people. They have very clearly told them that quickest way to end this conflict now is for LTT to surrender and discuss modalities for disarmament. I think everyone hopes that they will see reality and do that.
Well, the international community and the United States is also calling on your government to halt the fighting, to allow for a negotiation of this civilian evacuation. Why won't you agree to this ceasefire, this temporary truce?
Government did agree twice and declared 2 poses, and then in fact used a number of interlocutors to send messages to LTTE to reciprocate and agree to let these civilians go. They didn't do that.
You had a 2-day ceasefire last week, but what about now? The Tamil Tigers are refusing to surrender. Why won't you agree to a temporary truce to allow those 50,000 or so civilians caught up in that war zone to get out of that area?
Certainly, if the LTT today can tell the ICRC or the United Nations that we are letting this 50,000 go, I'm sure we can persuade our government to agree to any truce tomorrow.
The International Committee of the Red Cross says this is nothing short of catastrophic. What is your response to that?
The government certainly shares all the international concerns, including the ICRC concern about the catastrophe being created by the LTTE, and that is why government is sending food even under these trying conditions, to food and medicines to these areas. ICRC ships are going there every 3 days with the full knowledge that bulk of it is being used by the LTT to feed its cadres. Government shares that concern, and it's working with the international organizations like ICRC to alleviate that. And we are gratified to see that civilians have taken the message and they are coming in large numbers walking away from the LTT.
So, sir, is there any chance that there will be a truce in the following days?
I repeat that if the LTTE agrees tomorrow and tell the ICRC and the world that we are letting these 50,000 or 60,000 or 10,000 people go, remaining people go, I'm sure we can persuade the government to agree to any modality to facilitate that, including a truce.
All right. H.M.G.S. Palihakkara, the Sri Lankan ambassador to the United Nations, many thanks for joining CNN today.